spoken to me. You're literally getting to know someone else in front of me. What do you want me to do? Sit here and mope and cry? No, I'm here as well. This is my experience too. If you're getting to know someone, I'm going to do the same.
I understand your emotions are involved, and I don't like you feeling that way whilst I'm getting to know Sherb.
Well,
I find it interesting that everyone is trying to justify what Whitney said to Scott as, oh, she's his best friend in the real world, so she knows him in the real world. So is Kieran. Kieran is his best friend and most probably knows him longer than Whitney. Because we all remember very well on that Truth or Dare game when he said he had a threesome in Scott's bed. So why do we have short-term memory loss? And also, I find it interesting that Scott suddenly has the voice and is running around for anyone with ears to hear, including Cher. He's complaining about the fact that Leanne went to the secret garden. Leanne hasn't run around to everybody saying Scott is going to Cher to the terrace, is gone where. No, she's just been handling her business with him. And surprisingly, he had to run to everyone and try and compare situations. Scott, side-eye. I really am side-eyeing you. And then with Whitney, I am feeling some type of way because I didn't like the way she handled the situation with Leanne. And Scott, you could tell he was really upset. You could really tell he was upset and he was conflicted because now he's having to sort of take sides, either go for his best friend or the girl that he likes. And Whitney doesn't realize that love will always win and she's going to lose this man because the audacity to sort of be dismissive and abrupt with Leanne and yet be very polite and sort of explanatory when it comes to Sammy. We all complained about the same thing and she complained about the same thing when Shaq did this to her. Suddenly, surprised, she's got amnesia and she doesn't remember that. Lucinda, whoever's buying a hot mess, I said Lucinda has a persona and she's going to milk this to the very end. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars, Season 3, Episode 21. So you have the islanders wake up. Obviously, those that are in the downstairs are come up to the bedroom. You have Whitney and Yemen. They were in the hideaway, so they came up. Yemen was very happy. He thanked everyone for sort of helping Whitney get ready for the night, and he had a very good night. And it's like, oh, okay, if that's what works for you, amazing. The audacity, Scottisha. So Scottisha brings drinks. People are complaining that Scott doesn't like Leanne. Scott's non-verbals are talking way louder than whatever script is going on in that villa because he made the drinks. People were getting drinks and Leanne was complaining that, oh, I still haven't had my green tea. And he came with the teas, walked past Cher, went and gave Leanne her drink first and then came back and gave Cher her drink. You could have easily given Cher her drink because she was on the way to Leanne, but he's trying to make it a point to show Leanne that you're my number one. Sadly, Leanne, because she's in her feelings, she's not picking up on the non-verbals, which is really sad, and I feel sorry for her. You have Lucinda and Sean, they're sitting on the day beds, and, they were talking about the pressure of the pie, the fact that, the pie was very hard, the way Lucinda threw it at Sammy, and she was sort of trying to get an unbiased opinion from Sean. Sean loves the drama. So he's going to do whatever makes him happy and whatever gives him, he's loving the fact that he's getting a lot of airtime, and he knows he's getting a lot of airtime, which he can use to his advantage like he did when he left the villa. And so they were sort of having this conversation about, oh, was the pie very hard? Do you think I need to speak to her? And then, you had Sean say to her, Lucinda, be mindful of what you do. You need to consider other people's feelings, which is what everybody has been telling her. But Lucinda's putting on an act. She put on this sort of similar act in Australia when she was on Love Island Australia. She put on the similar act when she was on Love Island Games. And so the idea that people are shocked that this is who she's presenting herself as is surprising. Sammy is sitting on the sun deck with not the sun deck but she was very close to Lucinda and Sean, and she was talking to Belle, and they were sort of saying, these people are not serious. They're really not serious. We're not friends with them, and we need to understand that, that this is who Lucinda is. And it's like, girl, you need to leave Lucinda alone. You need to leave Lucinda alone. Otherwise, she's going to wind you up and you're going to end up doing something that you cannot come back from. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do. Anyway, you have the guys having a conversation with Scott. And so the guys are asking Scott, so Scott, what's going to happen? And then he said, oh, I need to have a few more chats. I need to have chats with Leanne, and then I need to have chats with Cher. And hopefully by the time I go to bed today, I will know exactly what I want to do. And it's like, we all know production is saying we're going into a new week. We need to shut down this storyline. We can't continue dragging this storyline for 2 weeks. And so they're having to shut it down. Leanne on her part is very upset because of the fact that she told him she didn't like the idea of him making drinks. So the fact that he made another drink for Cher, she doesn't like it because she doesn't think she's a barista. So she was on the day beds with the girls, with Lucinda and Millie, and then I think she was overwhelmed. So she started crying. While she was crying, the girl stood up to go and pacify her. And then the boys realized that things were not right. Something was wrong. So they all sat up because Kieran said somebody's crying. They all sat up to try and see who was crying. Sean was going to pick up his stuff, obviously, because the girls were there. And then they realized it was Leanne. Scott wasn't happy. His face dropped. You could see he was really upset at the fact that she was crying because he doesn't know what to do. Obviously, production are not going to allow him to talk to her unless they want him to talk to her or to address whatever issues, because they're creating a show, so it has to have a sequence. It can't just be haphazard. This is why the edits don't make any sense at times. So Leanne then said, I think, this is what I think. I think Leanne spoke to production, and production told her that you can't continue to sit on the sidelines and wait for Scott to sort of come out of this love triangle or whatever exploration that is on. You need to try and explore with someone. Because she cried, and then she started crying again, and then she started laughing, and she said, now I need to go to the same people that were giving me advice about Scott and pull them for chats, for a romantic chat. I really don't know what to do, because she is set in Scott. This is the person that she likes. I don't think she knew how much she liked him until all this love triangle situation started. Now she's in her feelings because she's realized that, oh, this is not a good look. Anyway, the boys then stand up from the little mini fire pit, and as they leave Kieran and Scott. Kieran and Scott had a conversation about Leanne crying. I'm willing to put money on that. But we didn't get to hear the conversation because it doesn't go with the storyline that they're aiming for, that Scott is possibly losing interest. And they want us as viewers to think that Scott is losing interest. He likes Leanne a lot, and I think this has shown him that he really likes her, because every time he sees her upset, he himself becomes upset because he doesn't know how to help her. Anyway, Whitney goes for a chat with Scott. That chat for me, I think, was a lot of cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. Because Scott was asking, Whitney, what do you think of my connections? Because he was asked, are you still conflicted? And he said, no, I'm not. But what's your opinion on my connections as my bestie? And Whitney was saying, you get along with both of them, but the problem is you're very outspoken. So you need someone who's able to rein you in. I don't think if you're outspoken, you need somebody else who's outspoken, because that's going to be a toxic household. If you are both going from 0 to 100, you need someone to balance you out. And Leanne is that for Scott, because every time there sort of is in an argument or whatever, and Leanne sort of tries to pacify him, he will quieten down. And so the idea that Whitney thinks that Scott needs Cher is not even outspoken. So I don't get it. And the thing she's criticizing about Leanne and Scott doesn't make sense, because that is her and Yemen. Yemen is very quiet. He only speaks up when required. Otherwise, Whitney is the one who's out there and is just talking nonstop. Even her last boyfriend, Loken, was very quiet and would only speak as required. So the audacity to say Cher is better for you because she's able to control you. He's a grown man. He can pacify himself, madam. He doesn't need Leanne to pacify him. He needs to be able to regulate his emotions. What happens if Leanne's not in the room? What is he going to do? So I don't buy that excuse that Whitney was trying to give. You have Leanne. So Leanne walks past. She really looked sad. And you had Scott and Whitney actually say, oh, she really looks sad. So they called her, and then Leanne pulled Whitney for a chat. And she went and she said, I really need to start having conversations with people. I know Yemen is your man. If I do pull him, just know that it's because, I need to start talking to people, and I can't continue to sit on the sidelines and wait for him to sort of make his decision. Whitney encouraged her. She said, she was shocked that, Leanne wanted to speak to Yemen if possible, but then she said to her, put on your lipstick and go and pull people for chats, which would have made sense. And I think production then pushed Leanne. This is what I'm going to say. I think Leanne was told to go and pull someone for a chat. And Leanne didn't want to start something that she knew she wouldn't be able to sort of continue with. This is why she didn't go for the single guys. She could have pulled Jack. She could have pulled Tommy. But I don't think she wants to explore anything. I think she wants Scott back, but she doesn't know how to get him. So she's decided to just follow the script. Because when she pulled Yemen and she said, let's go to the Secret Garden, she apologized to me and said, I'm sorry you're being dragged into this. Yemen has got a mouth of his own. If he didn't want to go to the Secret Garden, he could have said no. Scott said no, so why didn't he say no? I think he just followed along and he knew that this was part of the script. And I think Leanne had been told, pick one of the guys, and she decided to go for Yemen. But Whitney wasn't told that this is what was taking place, because I have a feeling now they're going to try and sort of create Leanne as the bad guy. As soon as this happened, Scott was in his feelings. Scott wasn't happy. Scott was not happy because he started moaning, oh, I don't like this. She's just doing this just because it's a performance, just because she sees me speaking to Cher. And it's like, buddy, we've watched 3-4 episodes of you speaking to Cher, and she hasn't done anything. She's fed up of waiting. You can't continue to leave her on the sidelines. And I think Scott's biggest fear is this is what happened with Catherine. Catherine came back with that man, that fitness trainer that was going to take her to Dubai and whatever. And so I think Leanne was strategic in the person she picked. She picked someone she knew would be intimidating for Scott, because if she had picked Kieran and Scott are best of friends. There's no way Kieran was going to go there. But Scott doesn't know about Yemen, and he doesn't know whether Yemen would go there or not. And I think this is why she did it. And I also think she looked around and thought, I don't want to become entangled in someone. I want someone who I can easily sort of untangle myself from. They went to the Secret Garden. Scott then started moaning to Cher, oh, just imagine the person who's been comforting her is the person whose guy she's taken. And it's like, buddy, what has that got to do with you? You are sitting with your side quest. Focus on your side quest. Focus on your side quest and leave this poor girl alone to do whatever she's doing. So when they got into the Secret Garden, you had Leanne again reiterate, I'm sorry for dragging you into this. And I think at that moment, Yemen knew that I'm just being used as a prop. So I have to play along with whatever is going on here. So then Leanne said, I need to sort of explore a connection. I need to have chats with people. This is why I've pulled you, just to see, because I kissed you in the challenge and you're someone I would speak to in the real world. So this is why I pulled you. Scott on the outside was complaining. He then went to the fire pit. He went so that he could be close by. And it's like, Scott, why not go upstairs to the terrace with Cher? Because Leanne is gonna, she's playing tit for tat. Back in my day, I would have pulled Cher and gone for a kiss, but I'm not going to do that because that's not me. No, he was feeling some type of way, and I loved it. I really loved it. Oh my God, this review is going to be extra long, and I loved it. So they had a conversation. They asked each other, what are you looking for a partner? And Leanne was saying, she wants someone who's respectful, someone who's intelligent, someone who works out, and someone who's funny, and someone who's loyal. And that was more or less her describing Scott. You had Yemen talk about what the qualities that he wants in a girl. So it was just a chat that they had. And I think after a little while, they were told, okay, you can leave, because they were sitting opposite one another. It's not even like they were sitting on the same bench. This is what I think. I think production sent Leanne for a chat, thinking that whoever she picked for a chat, she might end up kissing that person, or that person might be inappropriate. That way they could put it on movie night. Sadly, they sat like 2 people in an interview. So there was nothing to put up, because had anything happened inappropriate or anything that would have fueled Whitney's wrath, they would have put it up as part of Leanne's clips. And I'm surprised that, Whitney didn't pick up on that. Anyway, they came out of the Secret Garden and they were laughing because she was very nervous and saying, oh, I'm very afraid, I'm worried about what people are going to say or think. Whitney, in the meantime, had been complaining to anyone with ears that, oh, I told her, to get her groove on and sort of start chatting to people, and she goes and pulls my guy. I don't think that's it. She's my sister. Why is she doing that? And it's like, but Whitney, you're just dragging her to Scott. This is not the first time you've dragged her. So the idea that you want her to be loyal to you when you are not loyal to her, when you're speaking to your bestie, doesn't make sense. When they came out of the Secret Garden, they were laughing. And then you had Kieran complain, why are they laughing? Why are they laughing? Because it was Kieran, Scott, and Carrington at the fire pit. And Scott had to protect them. No, they can laugh. They can laugh. And it's like, oh my God, you are upset. But in your upset, you're still protecting her. You still want to make sure she's okay. Make that make sense. It was cute. It was really interesting to see. So you had Yemen go and have a chat with Whitney, and he said, I shut her down. I told her we're doing very well. I'm not open to anything. So we just had the friendship conversation. And it's like, I don't get why Whitney's upset. Because at the end of the day, if this is a man, this is a man. If it's not a man, it's not a man. So whether she fights it or not, if it's meant to be stolen, it's going to be stolen. So please take several seats. You then have Tommy receive a message. Islanders, glam up and take a front row seat because tonight the receipts are rolling and movie night is open. And it's like they were waiting for Leanne to do something that was going to be toxic. And sadly, they didn't have anything, and they thought sending her to the Secret Garden would do it. And it didn't provide what they wanted. So all the Islanders get ready for the night. So you have the Islanders having dressed up. You have the guys come out first. They pick up their drinks and they sit down. The girls come out second. Everyone is, well, a majority of people are nervous because if you've been talking badly about your fellow islanders, you know that it's going to be brought up. If you've been moving messy or mad, it's going to come up. Anyway, so you have them all sit down. And unlike with previous sort of movie nights where they get the islanders to pick the topic, production were messy. They were just putting up a title and then they would play the clips and then it would just erupt in chaos. And this was the most eventful sort of movie night that I've seen. And so they started with Millie. Their first topic was Free Millie. We got to see clips of Millie with Curtis and her sort of exploring a connection with Zach, and the time she spoke to Curtis told him that they were completely done and he was crying in the bedroom. And Millie was trying to go to the terrace with Zach and they had to come back. And then sadly they brought Whitney into this situation because they showed the conversation Millie had with Whitney when she was saying, Curtis is saying he was thinking about me when he was kissing Kira and I don't understand why my name came into that because, we're already done. And Whitney as well was saying, why is he bringing you up? I thought the two of you were over and you completed that. So why would you feel like saying, you are a part of that? And for Curtis was in his feelings because he really liked Millie. He didn't want to tell Millie off. As far as I'm concerned, this is why he went after Whitney. Whitney wasn't wrong. She was told about the situation, gave her opinion on the situation. There was no need for Curtis to sort of say that to her. And I love that you had Yemen actually stick up for Whitney and say, no, she was just giving an opinion to her friend who was asking her for advice. She wasn't trying to sort of interfere or involve herself in your stuff. Next up was how to lose Leanne in 10 days. Scott knew it was him. He knew it was him. And they started off with a cutesy clip of them sitting around the fire pit the day Leanne almost got dumped, with them saying, it's no longer early days, you're my favorite person. We didn't get to see the you're my favorite person bit. I would have loved for it to be shown because then people would understand. They showed the conversation in the kitchen that same night when Scott was saying, no, he would never have gone home, he wasn't going to leave the villa. And the dialogue that sort of happened between him and Belle, because Belle was saying, if you think your connection is very strong with Leanne and it's a real thing, then there's no point in you staying in here because what else are you staying for? And so they brought up the clip of Scott saying it's only been 2 weeks. And Lucinda likes to agitate people. Why she laughed at the 14 days doesn't make sense because it wasn't her business. Then they showed the conversation in Villa USA where you had Cher sort of say Scott was in a one-sided relationship and she kissed him and he was saying he's open. And then they were sneaky because on the terrace conversation where he said he's open to getting to know Cher, but depending on how strong their connection is, he might shut things down with Leanne. And so they sort of made it seem like Scott is saying that if things grow stronger with Cher, then he's going to shut Leanne down. And you could see Leanne wasn't feeling that. She really wasn't happy about that. And I loved that they ended it with the, we're in a love triangle. What shape would you call this? And everybody was laughing. And so Leanne then went on to say, because they cut off the end bit where she was saying, I'm not going to tell you to stop talking to her. I'm not going to tell you to shut it off. I'm not going to tell you to let's close up. And then she said, you're a grown man. Scott then got in his feelings and he was like, I think Scott was already on fire because of the whole situation with Yemen. It's something that came out of left field, and given the fact that she had kissed him in the snog Mary Pie, that just doubled his anger. I think he was willing to overlook the kiss, but then the kiss and the secret terrace, he just thought another kiss might be taking place. So he got in his feelings and he was upset. And you had Belle. Scott's kryptonite is Leanne. He called her his spark, but she's his kryptonite. Because the moment she speaks, or she cries, or she's unhappy, he quietens down. He's a totally different man. Because he had a back and forth with Belle, because Leanne said, Belle, thank you very much for sticking up for me, because you're the only person who was there who sort of said something that made sense. Scott tried to explain himself, and Leanne said, "No, you're talking from both sides of your mouth, because one minute you're saying, have the strongest connection, and then the next minute you're saying, I'm still open. Which is it? Do we have the strongest connection, or are you open?" Scott had to explain that, "No, what I mean is we are the strongest couple in the 2 weeks that we've been in the villa." And so they both agreed that, the girls, well, agreed that it made sense. And then he started, "I've been respectful with this. I've made sure that I've kept you in the loop of everything. I've tried to be as respectful as I can. And yet you went and took Yemen to the Secret Garden." And it's like, oh my God, how has this become an equation for whatever's happened? Because the Secret Garden wasn't brought up. If anything inappropriate had happened in the Secret Garden, they would have shown it. But because nothing happened, they've decided to leave the mystery of what happened in the Secret Garden out of the clips. That way Scott's head is still just boiling, because he doesn't know exactly what happened. All he knows that people went in laughing and they came out laughing. He doesn't know what happened inside, and he hasn't had a conversation to debrief with Leanne to find out exactly what happened. So he was now on fire, and he was going on, and the girls had to say to him, "No, don't deflect. We're talking about what's been shown. Let's discuss that." And he was like, "No, but and then Leanne started talking, and you could see he mellowed down. For someone who's quick-witted, someone who's abrupt, someone who's sort of sharp with his words, the fact that he was pacifying himself, it sort of did away with whatever theory Whitney had, because he was pacifying himself. He didn't say a thing while Leanne spoke. And Leanne said, "You've been getting to know someone in my presence, in front of me, and you expect me to sit on the sidelines crying and moping just because you are doing you. This is my experience as well. I need to do me. I can't continue to sit and wait while you do whatever. So if you're going to get to know somebody else, then I'm going to do the same." Oh, that Betty didn't like it. That Betty didn't like it. Because when they were having this back and forth, you had clips of sort of Whitney and Shed drinking their drinks and sort of laughing behind their glasses. But the moment Scott became emotional, even Yemen, it clicked in his head that, "Oh, this is why she came and took me. I was just a prop. It's not that she wanted anything to do with me." Because Scott said, "I know it's very painful for you. It upsets me that this is hurting you. My intention," he more or less implied, "my intention was never to hurt you. It's just I wanted to explore, because this is what we're in the villa to do. And seeing you break down is upsetting for me." And so everyone kept quiet. Everyone kept quiet, because surprisingly, even Kieran, who's very outspoken, he could have spoken up for his guy. But when it comes to Leanne, Leanne is the kryptonite to Kieran and Scott. And Kieran really loves Leanne for Scott, and this is why he's very sort of always trying to make sure that Scott is doing the right thing, even though we don't get to see the clips. Scott wanted to cry. He really wanted to cry, because when he gave his little speech, he really wanted to cry. You could see it broke him when Leanne said to him, "If you're going to mess about, I am going to mess about as well. Gone are the days of me sitting in a corner and crying and waiting for you. Whatever you do, I'm going to do just the same." And I think this is not going to work out very well. I have a feeling they'll get back together. I do have a feeling that even Cher on her face, you could tell the realization, it sort of hit home that, oh, Scott is going back to Leanne. And I think very soon we're going to see her, if she's not dumped, sort of saying she wants to couple up with Jack if he's not dumped as well. Because I think the realization has come to her that Scott, as much as he was getting to know me, was never going to leave Leanne, because he really, really likes Leanne. And the way he spoke about her in front of everyone, the emotion in his voice, shows that I think they're both developing feelings at such a fast rate they didn't expect it, and they don't know how to process it. Because for Scott, I think he came into the villa just for a good laugh, a good time, because he knew his friend Kieran was going to be there and his friend Whitney was going to be there. He wasn't there looking for love, and sadly, love found him. The next clip is some like it Scott, and Scott was saying, "Oh my God, why is it always me? Why is it always me?" And so they showed a clip of Scott in the kitchen with Tommy and Sean, and they were talking about Helena's speech at the fire pit, and you heard Scott say, "Oh, I knew immediately." She started speaking that she meant Tommy, because there's no way she would have said that about Sean. Sean was upset. They showed the clip of him venting and sort of bad mouthing Scott. Everyone was giggling and laughing at it, but they should have taken it seriously, because the audacity for people to think that Scott is the bully and this little boy Sean is the victim. He's not the victim, given single thing he said. They also showed a clip of Scott saying to Lucinda, "I've been right about every single thing I've said about Sean. It's up to you. If you feel you want to continue to explore this connection with him, I won't stop you. But I just want you to know that be careful when you're around Sean. As soon as the clip finished, you had Sean say, "Oh, I did ask you, if you had said anything or if there's anything you wanted to say to me, but you wouldn't say it to me, and you said it to Lucinda." And Scott said, "Because I have nothing to say to you. As you heard in my clip, I have no business with you. Yes, I have beef with you, but I have no business discussing anything with you because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing there." I love that that's the moment Kieran found his voice and said, "Sean, you were busy bad-mouthing Scott. We've just watched you bad-mouth Scott behind his back. So you as well cannot say anything." Belle had to step in and say, enough is enough. The two of you don't like one another. Let us stop pretending and making it seem like this is something new. We all know that the two of you can't stand one another. So let's keep it stepping. And I was like, good for her for speaking up, because I think at the end of the day, there was never going to be a resolution. I think with Sean, he's trying to appear as though he was able to defeat his bully. At the moment, Scott was just knocked down with the Leanne situation. I don't think he had the energy to sort of go back and forth with Sean, and I think he's over that. Next up was Legally Belle. We had Belle having a conversation with Carrington, and Carrington saying, "I'm obsessed with you. I really like you. I'm obsessed with you." They showed him trying to sort of get a kiss from Belle, and Belle was swerving him and saying, "No, I have to be respectful." And so then you had Helena say, "Oh, he really doesn't like me, does he? Because he doesn't say or do the things that he does with Belle." And it's like, Helena, the problem is your understanding or the way you move around guys is the reason why they treat you the way they treat you. Maybe if you had a little more self-respect, they'll treat you with respect. But the fact that you're constantly sort of putting yourself in situations whereby they know that you're an easy mark, this is why they don't have any respect for you. You had Belle sort of bring up the fact that I was respectful, Sean. I didn't do anything. And Sean tried to bring up, "Oh, but you kissed him in a challenge." And it's like, it's in a challenge. You can't count a challenge as me betraying you. And so I understand Belle trying to sort of prove a point, but there's no point in proving a point to someone who doesn't care and someone who doesn't have the time of day for you. You're just wasting your breath, and I really wish she had just saved her energy, because it's pointless speaking to that man. Next up was Jumping Jack Flash. Jack. Well, they showed Jack and the American girls. The fact that he kept playing them against one another. He kissed one, and then he went to kiss another, and then he went to kiss another. So he started off by kissing Kira, and then he went to kiss Amani. Amani had to tell him, "No, that's it." Amani, I don't think, was feeling him like that. I think she wanted to come to the villa, but she wasn't feeling him like that. And then they showed him sort of telling Amani that he was going to change bed partners. And the guy started sort of asking him, how long was it between all the cases? And he said 1 hour. And they were sort of laughing about it, and the American girls had to call him out and say, "No, don't try and be the man amongst your friends. It's not like that. That's not acceptable. It's not a good thing for you to be bragging that, you're going through the girls like you're going through a pair of shoes. So we're really not on board with it." And everyone was laughing, because at one point he had 3 girls and now he's got none. That's just, silly of him. He had the same playbook as Shaq. Shaq had so many girls at one point, and then he ended up with none. This is now the situation with Jack. The only saving grace for him is if he is either asked, if the viewers are asked to vote for an islander, or if they are asked to vote for a couple and he is in a couple with someone who, the viewers think they can't save him with. Otherwise, my money's on him going home. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one who's dumped. We had the Sean identity. Sean, they showed him with Belle, sort of reassuring Belle, trying to make her understand that she was his only partner. And then we saw him sort of moving through partners and how he and Lucinda started dating. That was really messy. Because at the end of the day, Sean never really liked Belle. Sean used Belle as a placeholder. When Sammy came in, he thought he would get attention from Sammy. She didn't pay him that attention. And then when Lucinda came in, he tried for Lucinda. So every single time he would go for someone, they would turn him down, and then he would go for the next person. And he tried the same thing with Helena. So with Belle, I'm happy that she got to speak her truth, but she needs to shut it down now. It's about time. We're fed up of the back and forth between her and Sean. We can move on from that. Next title was There's Something About Sammy. We then got to see how, it came out that Lucinda lied to the girls about who she was going to pick. Because you had the islanders sitting outside, And you had Scott sitting there with Leanne in his lap, and it's like, Cher should know that this man is taken. He's never going to come to her. Anyway, they were sitting there, and then Leanne was telling Sammy that, oh, just so that you know, Lucinda apparently said she was going to pick Kieran, but she didn't want us to know, so she threw us off by letting us all assume she was going to pick the other three guys. We then saw the back and forth between Lucinda and Sammy, with Sammy sort of confronting Lucinda and saying, I heard that you were lying to everyone that you weren't going to pick Kieran when you knew that's what you're going to do. Lucinda then tried to say, oh, you see, I was right. Lucinda knows exactly what she's doing. She's not as ditzy as people make her out to be. And I think because they were on the same season with Millie, this is why Millie has to have her back all the time. But it doesn't make sense. That thing erupted and there was a lot of back and forth, and it's like there's no need for this. There really is no need for this. Let's just keep it stepping. Tommy Dearest was sweet because it was all the videos of him saying the nicest things to people. They had him sort of telling Sean about his feelings and how he felt about his friend, stealing his girl that he was really interested in. And so that's when it erupted between the girls, because you had Lucinda, Sammy, and Belle go at it. And at that point, you had, because Leanne was sitting in between, I think she was sitting in between Belle and Sammy. She was trying to pacify them and sort of try to say, no, just ignore it, just ignore it, just ignore it. Millie was trying to silence who? Lucinda, and things just kept hitting and hitting. So for Whitney personally, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in the sense that we all were here 2 weeks ago when Shaq was having a go at her, and we all were saying this is unacceptable. So for her to turn around and go at Leanne doesn't make sense. You had Cher saying, Whitney, don't do that, Whitney. And you could tell that Leanne wanted to cry. Scott was upset because Scott was conflicted, because in one hand, he's got the girl that he really likes, who is going against his bestie, and he can't interfere and take sides, because then they're going to say, why are you taking her side? So he was conflicted. I think Leanne was looking at him and saying, I didn't do anything to her. She's coming after me. And it's like, I understand Whitney might feel some type of way about Leanne pulling a guy, but there's a way to address it without being disrespectful or demoralizing someone. And to call out the Scott situation in that, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it, and I hope Whitney at some point sits down with her sister, as she calls her, and apologizes and actually expresses herself in regards how she felt about the whole Yemen situation, and uses her words to speak positivity into another woman instead of tearing her down while she's down. For her to sort of give an excuse, I'm a hothead, Belle is a hothead, Sam is a hothead, so when we're hotheads, we don't like people instigating. Please sit down. You're a hothead, but when Shaq was having a go at you, you were able to pacify yourself. Why can't you all pacify yourself? Why do you need someone else to pacify you? I didn't like that at all. I really didn't like it, and I felt it was in very, very poor taste. Last topic was Lucinda's web. Lucinda, we got to see her sort of in the villa, how she was exploring connections with people, how she sort of went through the guys until eventually she and Sean decided to start dating or start exploring, and we saw them in the Secret Garden. Belle didn't like it. She really didn't like it because it wasn't a good look. And Lucinda will never take ownership of her mistakes, so it's pointless for people to continue to have a back and forth with her because you will end up looking like the idiot. Anyway, Maya Jama arrived. She then just greeted the islanders, and we know there's definitely going to be a dumping or a recoupling. I can't wait to see that. I'm so sorry for my long review. Thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 20. Bye guys.